No, that's a very, it's a very simple language. Okay. Finance is impressive.
All right, good evening. We are going to start our work session today. All board members are present. We've also invited some guests, Ted Knight as well as Scott Smith and Dr. Tucker at our table as well to continue our process for discussing in statements. And tonight we're actually doing double duty. We're not only going to see a first reading of the work that we did with Julie Fairley last board meeting around collaborative parent and community relations, but we also wanted to go ahead and start moving forward with just polishing up our brainstormed work that we have done a few months ago around financial well-being. So we are near the end of getting all our in statements well defined and with sub ins. Again, just want to acknowledge Julie Fairley, who has been our facilitator and throughout all this process to really help us with wordsmithing, to help us also and challenge us with some ideas to make sure that our in statements truly reflect what's best for our system. So we have appreciated Julie. For those of you that don't know Julie, she has been an educator for a number of years, also even worked in our district as a director of secondary for a period of time, and also a book illustrator and just extraordinary all the way around. So again, we're honored to have Julie sit with us at the table and help us work through our next set of in statements or sub ins, which is titled Financial Well-Being. So with that, I'll turn it over to Julie.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I noticed after the last meeting that y'all were working on the bond issue and the overrides, etc. And I do like to bring you a little treat. And because I'm such a wealthy person, excuse me while I pick up my feet. I wanted to bring you money bound, but I found a way. I brought you all 100 grand, and help yourselves. The way I've got it figured, there are 6 in a package, 2 packages. I brought you $1 million too. So hey, but you don't have to thank me. It's okay. Oh, bless your little hearts. Anyway, the only addition I suggested, because you'll be making the any changes or corrections to the ones that already exist, was one I found regarding finance that it kind of tied into the whole idea of the bond issue, but also as you look, it would be the last goal that you have. And it's from the National School Board Association goals that they have, and I captured it and thought I'd at least pass it by you. And it is establish financial stability in order to accomplish all the above stated goals. So if you like that and want to add it, feel free, but I just brought it for you for fun. No, actually for your consideration. The candy's for fun. Okay, so let's begin taking a look at financial well-being work sessions. Did you want to go over the other ones first, David, or is that for the board? That's for the meeting, right? Okay. One in a row. Okay. Thank you. All righty. Suggestions? Yes, ma'am. Oh, you do? Oh, good. Oh.
Or I will repeat what Krista says. I'll translate. No, Kevin will do that because Kevin speaks Klingon. So
I think in the interest of financial stability, we should seriously consider buying another microphone. But no, I just want to say the one that you suggested, I love that one. And one of the reasons is because I have it on my little list of notes to ask people about. So kind of the same idea.
Establish, but also maintain. Maybe drop that in there too. I would say both.
And I'm going to second that both because we are going to be talking about some possible changes in how we do site-based budgeting. And so those are some things that we've been talking about with the FOC. So I do think establish would be important to keep in there. I also would like to mention that it is something that we're going to be talking about with the FOC this week. So it'll be nice to add that on there as well and get a little bit of feedback from them. Sorry, I don't have that feedback for this meeting. We meet Thursday. We're just 2 days late. But because so I'll get some feedback from them as well. But thank you. That's a good one.
Okie dokie. Other suggestions? Are we all okay with the addition of that one? Anybody not so much? Gotta love it. Okay. Anything that you would like to add, subtract, multiply, or divide to the first three that were already written? Let's go one at a time. Number 1. All district employees are good stewards of the financial resources belonging to the district on behalf of students. You should. That's you, Mr. Stewart Smith. Anything? Okay. Sure. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Oh.
So students first, I have no problem with that. But also, we have a responsibility to our taxpayers as well. So should we add taxpayers or community, or how would we like to wordsmith that if we're going to? Yeah, perfect.
On behalf of students and taxpayers.
So I just had a question when I read that because I think that as a board, we are also supposed to be good stewards, and we have it listed as all district employees. So I think we should probably be included.
I prefer the school board because that puts the onus on us. It's pretty specific. Nobody can say, well, what do you mean by officers? The ones standing in the hallway or the, yeah.
And I guess I'm wondering, should it be the collective school board or should it be school board directors? Because, I mean, we all do our own individual things and attend conferences that we can get reimbursed for and that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Although we do approve spending before we spend board money, so.
Anything else for number 1? Moving right along. Is it me or is that print pretty small? Okie dokie. All district funds and expenditures are handled efficiently, transparently, responsibly, and productively. The only question I have, honestly, is the last one. Because sometimes you buy a book and it isn't what you thought it would be. I don't know. I would suggest, just a suggestion, that you either consider a different word or define that one a little more. What do you mean by productive? Productive in learning, productive in money, saving efficiently in money. I don't know. What does that mean to you? Mm-hmm. Oh.
I would just say that the first three, I think, cover everything pretty well, efficiently, transparently, and responsibly.
So what I'm wondering though is around meaningful and thoughtful. I think that's that was the intent of the word productive, is that not only is it efficient, but it's very thoughtful in terms of, or it's meaningful in terms of purchasing this resource for a purpose, or it could be purposeful, might be the word too. I'm just not sure efficient is not always the best decision. And just because it's transparent is not always the best decision. It might be responsible because we go with the lowest bidder, for instance, but it seems like we need to throw in purposeful, so that it kind of adds that there's been thought provoked.
I agree with President Ray's what he said, and I also want to tie this back to student, because I mean, when we handle those effectively, transparently, responsibly, or regarding to what, I mean, student is what we serve, and ultimately, if our goal is set to make sure that we do good for them, I think that is important.
Then I would say we talk about how we want to handle the money, but then maybe the intent then is to maximize what we're giving the students, right? So we're doing all those things efficiently, transparently, purposefully, responsibly, to maximize student achievement, student experience, potential, you know. Benefit, yeah. Can you read it back to us?
Can and I will. All district funds and expenditures are handled efficiently, transparently, responsibly, purposefully, and purposefully to maximize benefit for all students. Seeing no objection. Oops. Sorry, Kevin.
Well, just a thought. Should we need to include the word equitability somewhere in here? Not, I don't know whether including the potential, including equitability, you know, in that. I just don't just for this because I think our goal is make sure that all students are educated equitably, maximize their potentials. Would that have the same effect as educated them adequately?
Kevin, a little bit. So, and I wonder that might go into C, because you know what we struggle with in this district is this notion that every child gets this equal amount of money. And I think what Director Long is saying, you know, is that we need to look at the equitable piece. It says that, you know, not all kids, fair but equal. Not all kids should have an equal amount of money. I mean, some kids, it takes more money to educate. Some kids take less money to educate. So I'm wondering in terms of the next one, if we might slide in the word equitable in there, because that's more the fiscal transactions is talking about in terms of how we transact funds, that maybe equity might go in there possibly.
So I had that word written down too, as well as applying to students, you know, to schools, to compensation. And the reason I didn't bring it up is because of the one Julie suggested that says establish and maintain financial stability in order to accomplish the above stated goals. So I don't mind reinforcing equity again, but I feel like if we include the one Julie said, that we can point to any of those other goals about equity, about compensation, and it's incorporated. But that's just an idea.
when I'm going to look at Director Lemieux for a minute, because I think one of the things we do want to challenge our FOC to start thinking about is this whole notion of student-based budgeting. You know, because we've gotten into this rut that assumes that you have 800 students times this amount of money and that's your budget. And I do think we really need to challenge the status quo of that to say, you know, there's just some cases where we have to look beyond just this foundational dollar per child. So I agree with Krista that we have equity written all over and all our other goals, but I wonder if we might want to put a little challenge in these to say financially we want to look at equity. What's that? Yeah, that's true. It's a principle, though. It's a belief. Our belief is saying we recognize equity is as important as the financial stability of our district.
What if we say in that that statement to equitably maximize the benefit of all students?
So Scott, because you know we've been talking about this, and Dr. Tucker as well. I'm sorry, Mr. Smith. This is an official meeting. At this point, we haven't officially started discussing it. We haven't given that direction officially. However, we, at our agenda planning, talked about that's probably going to come up. Either way, whether we pass the bond and MLO or not, we're going to have to figure out something. We're either going to have to figure out where we're going to make more cuts and what does that look like for our site-based budgeting, or now we have this money that we can finally start adding back some programming and things, and that piece of equity, hopefully you're hearing from all 7 board members. I don't think anybody disagrees. What does that look like to you from the financial, our guy, what does that look like to you in this context of how you could be held accountable to that?
So I know the board doesn't want to get into the how tonight, but I think one of the things we need to keep in mind is that there is a way to do site-based budgeting in a more equitable fashion, right? So we do differentiate funding for special education. We provide staffing. We provide English as a second language staffing, reading recovery, those types of things. So there is some differentiation happening, but when you're thinking about the core of SBB, it is to what Director Ray alluded to, right? Number of students times a funding amount. You could maintain a site-based management approach and more equitably fund schools based on student needs, demographics, school characteristics, all those types of things. You can also fund exactly how we do now, but just manage it centrally. Or you could kind of do both and do it centrally and do it more equitably as well. So there's multiple ways to get to the how to do it. I think the thing that we would look for from the board is guidance on, if your priority is equity, we can execute that from a financial standpoint. We would need the backing of the board and the backing, obviously, of Dr. Tucker and cabinet. That's one of those things where we can go down that route. We can go down a number of different ways if we want to get there. I think if the board's direction on the big picture is this is the general direction we would want to go, staff, Dr. Tucker, cabinet, we can figure out the details of how to make that work in the context of Douglas County School District. So I think that's what we would be looking for from the board, is that clear line of this is generally how we want you to go, but then delegate to Dr. Tucker on how we actually execute that and what the plan looks like and how that would be rolled out into the system.
So, Mr. Smith, where would you see that helping for you in terms of, I mean, Director Vogel suggested it could be equitably maximizing student benefit, or is it in the transaction sub-in that talks about equitable transactions? Where would it give you and your department the most clarity?
The way I read C is that's really transactions, and just the way I read it, with outside entities. So what we're doing, is it legal? Are they monitored? Are they appropriate? Are we going through proper procurement channels? Are we bidding things out? All of those types of things is kind of how I see letter C here. I think it fits better in B because we're talking about being efficient, being transparent. If one of those key indicators, if you will, is, and also being equitable in the way that we fund our schools or our departments, the organization as a whole, it feels to me that B looks more internal at our practices, and then C is more how we interact outside of the organization. But that's just my quick read of it.
So why don't we just say are handled equitably, efficiently, transparently on B? Just have that be our first and foremost is equitably, efficiently, transparently, responsibly, and purposefully with through maximizing student benefit. And just have it, I mean, that's pretty clear that it's an actual bullet point. Okay.
I like that.
Pretty good with that? My goodness. The reason I never mind, that's kind of personal. I was just going to say that I know there are target schools where there may be a target program that might be expensive. So I appreciate the term equitable a lot. I think you were wise to do that. Okay, I'm shutting up now and moving on to C. Anything else you want to do with C? Currently, it reads, all district fiscal transactions are monitored to ensure their legality and appropriateness in keeping with district regulations and goals.
To me, that feels like a how when you talk about a transaction is being monitored. Doesn't feel like a what. I said it feels like a how. It feels like we're saying how we're going to do something rather than this is what we want.
But it could also be considered as there are several different ways to monitor things. So if you're monitoring how money is being spent on a site-based area versus how it's being spent on procurements versus how it's being spent for within our workday programming, I mean that's one form of monitoring. But there's the global monitoring that yes, somebody is keeping an eye out for all of this stuff. And I think that to me is the definition of monitoring here, that there is that global overreach that or oversight. Maybe oversight. Would you prefer a word like oversight? That there is oversight?
If you wish to not use monitored, would just be all fiscal transactions are legal, appropriate, and in keeping with district regulations. It doesn't have a verb, an action verb in that point. Old English teachers never die. So shall we? Anything else with that one, sir?
I don't know whether we should consider to act well ethically in there.
Anything else? And where did you want to place the one you added? I think it belongs last, to be honest, because it's basically saying all of the above goals. That's cool. Which one? See, you betcha. All district fiscal transactions. Just a minute. Are equitable. No, that's the wrong one. Wait a minute. There it is. Are ethical, legal, and appropriate in keeping with district regulations and goals. The other one is for the one up above. That other thing I read. Okay, and then we add the last one. Anything else? Certainly, sir. Establish and maintain financial stability in order to accomplish the above stated goals. How's that sound to you, sir? Mr. Finance guy said it's cool.
I just want to ask, our CFO and Dr. Tucker, is anything in here that you think that is going to make your life problematic? This is the last chance, you voice your opinions.
All of no, this is a great start. When I look back at the strategic plans that I've been a part of, whether I was a teacher, beginning administrator, veteran administrator, principal, or superintendent, it certainly would have helped having some general idea of where the board sees itself in representing the community at large. Again, not to guide and not to point the strategic planning process in one specific direction, but really getting an early pulse on what the community wants for a Douglas County School District preschooler or graduate. So this is going to help us tremendously as we start the strategic planning process the first of the year in 2019. And I would just simply say, and I do appreciate those directors have said over and over again, this shouldn't be the how, just a general umbrella way, if you would, wide net, casting a wide net in terms of what are the important things here in the district. So it's a great way to begin the whole process of discovery when we engage the business community, our staff, teacher support staff, administrators, and of course, higher ed, the entire community in the process.
So I don't know if this is adding a whole nother thing, but do we? And maybe this is part of the responsibly in terms of the way district funds and expend it. There isn't anything about any future planning or contingencies. I know we're not going to get specific about stuff, and I know we have Tabor that tells us that we have to have a certain reserve, but is there anything that we should have in there, or do we even have a priority for that, that we're, we have plans in case of an emergency, or we have some, something along those lines, future planning?
And I might just say, the new letter D that we added, establish and maintain financial stability. If we're not in the multi-year financial planning process, we can't maintain financial stability because, the small variance from year to year, kind of the management of the operation is going to happen. What we're trying to do is smooth that out over a number of years so there aren't days when you have, a ton of money and then you're cutting and then you're back to a ton of money, and so you're trying to smooth that out as much as you can. So I think if we're talking about maintaining financial stability, I would read that as financial stability over the long term, not just in the current school year or 1 year out. You could do that.
Yeah. Well, I just echo what Dr. Lemieux said also. Should we have to work long term in there, like establish and maintain long term financial stability?
Kevin's skipping me. I just had this epiphany when you talk about these as being end goals. Now, obviously, we don't want the board to use this as a goalpost, a moving goalpost, but I think it should be viewed as a living document too. That the board comes back next year, makes some adjustments as we go through the strategic planning process, and maybe your question becomes a question that we need to focus more on.
Yeah, we just capture that too, Dr. Tucker, that I think what we have certainly been trained around policy governance is that there's this period of interpretation where you negotiate that with us and say, did you mean this? When you said long-term stability, is this what you meant? And then, but you're right, it becomes that living document that we continually negotiate year after year to make sure we're all on the same page in terms of how we're translating and interpreting these. So I agree.
the main thing is to, there's a happy medium to be sought, because one thing you don't want to have is that these are transient, we can change them next week kind of goals either. So there's a word somewhere, and I like your epiphany, because I think there is one. We just need a better word than end goals. So goals for now, and later on find a word for end. Anything else, my friends? Good job. I am impressed. I want to know if I can say something as a person, not as, is that okay? Even if it's not an open board, maybe?
You don't want to be Mike? That will help you. If you need to use your whole body to express. We do want to make sure that.
I can do that stuff. Good guy. Okay, enough. I don't care if you want the microphone. Okay, this is Julie talking, and I wanted to tell you a couple things. I might cry. In fact, I'm already starting, but I appreciate this board more than I can tell you. And those of you who are new and don't know me don't know that I worked in this district. My daughter has worked in this district for 25 years. My grandson just graduated from Thunder Ridge. My granddaughter, God help him, is entering Thunder Ridge. She's got to mind her own, that kid. My neighbors, my ex-husband and his wife, both have worked in the district. I just am so invested in what you do. And times recent and past times have been difficult, because I think maybe somehow the sight of the children got lost. And I believe that this board has brought it back. So you not only have my vote, you have my unending love and affection, and I will also do all that I can to help you. Okay? Okay, there wasn't one, not even one. They're back there. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Well, I can't think of a better benediction than that. But and Julia, I'm hoping that this isn't the last time, because we don't want to. We never want to say goodbye or farewell. But you have been with us from the get-go, and I can't tell you how much we have all appreciated these sessions with you and helping us really keep focused on kids, which is what you have brought to this table every single time. So truly, the district is in debt to the work that you have done with us, because it really has, as Dr. Tucker has said, it's going to be the springboard of where strategic planning starts. And I just feel like that we are in such a better place in terms of our focus than we've ever been. So thank you for all your work. All right. So we are going to bring our work session to a close, and we'll be back up on the dais at 6 o'clock.